Hello my friends and welcome once again to this Red Gaming Tech video with myself, Amata. As always, I'm here with the latest news from the tech world from the last 24 or so hours. Hopefully you guys are having a nice Friday and are going to have a good weekend, as well as good as a weekend as you can, of course. We've got quite a bit to get through today, so I'm just going to get right started into some comments from Ubisoft. Now, obviously, one of the topics that keeps getting brought up over the last few days, especially with the Inside Xbox event, having kind of revitalised the conversation as well, is the likelihood of games being delayed. You know, both Microsoft and Sony have said repeatedly that they are confident that the consoles will come out on time, but obviously the games are the bigger question mark. And now Ubisoft have stated in a recent year-end report that one of their upcoming games could be delayed. Now, you might wonder what these games are. Back in February, Ubisoft did say that they had 5 AAA games slated for release in the 2021 fiscal year, which began on April the 1st. But they have now said that there's a, quote, higher level of uncertainty caused by the need for developers to work from home due to what's going on in the world right now. And the comments came from Yves Guillemot, who said, quote, "The current crisis calls for prudence as numerous uncertainties have arisen. The transition to working from home has had short-term repercussions on our production, for the time being limited to a few weeks. The coming months will provide more visibility on whether or not we can maintain our release plans." And he went on to say that a few weeks on one can have a major impact on the others. "We are being prudent for sure. We don't know what the next few months will bring, so that's why we are taking potential further delays due to the situation, even if our teams are really working hard to make sure they tackle all the problematics for mocap, testing, and all the other potential issues we had. We are conservative. We don't see any specific issues on a specific game, but as Yves said," and this was from the CFO Frederic Dugas, hopefully I've pronounced that correctly, "we are taking a generally cautious stance here." So obviously this is the smart way to approach the situation. Obviously they're hoping there aren't any delays, but they're saying that there is a higher possibility that we could be seeing a delay, because even if, say, a big one like Assassin's Creed, just for example, is only delayed slightly, that could have a bigger impact on the other games, as all the developers that would have been freed if that had finished on time are now still working on that project. And obviously with the game as huge, and a team as huge as it would have for Assassin's Creed, would obviously have a big impact on game development. Now obviously they're not saying that there definitely is going to be a delay for one of the games. They are just saying that the possibility is definitely a real one, and they're proceeding with the appropriate amount of caution. So hopefully nothing ends up being delayed, but given how much I've been talking about this the last few days, I figured it was very good to finally get some comments from one of the biggest companies in the industry. So we're going to move over now to some tech-related news, of course, and this is going to be, first of all, regarding Nvidia. Now, obviously, we finally had the reveal of the Ampere architecture from Nvidia at their digital GTC event yesterday. If you did miss our video, it is literally yesterday's video, but I'll make it easier for you and put a link in the description below this video. Paul did go through everything that Jensen did reveal to us, but something has been unveiled on the heels of this announcement. As a bit of a surprise announcement, Nvidia are going to be using the AMD 7nm EPYC Rome CPUs as part of their latest DGX A100 system, which of course will be utilising the brand new 7nm Ampere GPUs. And Lisa Su herself tweeted about this, so we know that it's legit, and she said, quote, "Proud to have AMD server EPYC Rome CPUs in the new DGX servers. Congrats Nvidia on the new A100 launch, and thanks for selecting AMD as your CPU partner." So pretty damn surprising, as I'm sure you will agree. You know, AMD or Nvidia are competitors in every sense of the word, but I think it goes to show the strength of EPYC when Nvidia have ditched Intel and gone with AMD, despite the fact that, of course, they are competing with them on several fronts. In terms of the specifications for the DGX A100, we are going to be seeing 2 AMD EPYC 7742 Rome CPUs, and these have 64 cores and 128 threads each, which makes for 128 cores and 256 threads in total. The base frequency of these is 2.25 GHz and a boost of 3.4. It has 1 TB of DDR4 memory in the system and up to 15 TB U.2 and 2 times 1.92 TB NVMe SSDs. In terms of the GPU side of things, it's going to have 8 Nvidia Tesla A100 Tensor Core GPUs, which will have a total of 320 gigabytes worth of GPU capacity. And this is going to have a peak performance of 5 petaflops for AI and 10 petaops for int 8. So obviously, unsurprisingly, this thing is a monster. Still, it's just really cool to see Nvidia and AMD work together in this way. Obviously, isn't something that happens every day by any stretch of the imagination. But we're going to move over now from Nvidia to AMD themselves, as we have something for Renoir. So we have the one and only videocards.com to thank for this particular reveal. You will of course find their article linked in the description below this video. So we've been hearing lots and lots about a Ryzen Renoir desktop CPU, and we have finally got a picture of the device thanks to video cards, and this is the Ryzen 4700G APU. Now, according to video cards' sources, this is a final version of the product, and we're not going to be waiting too long before we can actually get our hands on the thing. And yes, this is the very same APU that we have been seeing in all the recent leaks and rumours. You may have seen these screenshots from Igor's lab doing the rounds earlier on this week, which had an OPN list of the AMD Renoir desktop processors, and the list does include the one that we have seen unveiled today. It has an OPN code of 100,000,000,00146. Sorry for the slow reading of that. It genuinely was hard to make sure I read all the zeros out because they're kind of all merging together if you look at them long enough. But regardless, this is the APU that we did see in Igor's lab image earlier on this week. In case you missed it, however, let's just go on a quick rundown of the specifications that we do see in the screenshot from Igor's lab. We do see 8 cores, 16 threads of course, 8 megs of L3 cache, and 4 megs of L2. And this is very light on the LTDP as well, right, coming in at only 65 watts. Now, unfortunately, the one thing we don't have, which I know you're all just waiting for me to say, is we don't have any details on the performance, unfortunately. Now, obviously, there has been leaks previously, but we don't have anything new to confirm or reveal. Unfortunately, all we have is a confirmation that, yes, this exists. Here's what we do know about it, and here's what it looks like. But we're going to move over from AMD to Intel themselves, as we have a Tiger Lake U processor also being spotted. So this time around we actually have a benchmark which is spotted by none other than Rogame over on Twitter, and you can of course find his tweet linked in the description below this video. So the benchmark that he discovered was for an unnamed Tiger Lake U quad-core processor, and he spotted it on the Future Market database. Now, we do have some specifications being shown here, but not much, unfortunately. The database listing only mentions a nominal clock speed of 2.8 GHz and the CPU core configuration, which is 4 cores, 8 threads. However, we can see that it is a Tiger Lake U prototype by the hard-coded CPU name string of the part, and we can also see that this is a 15-watt part. With all that said, let's move over to our final topic of today, which is regarding the PlayStation 5. Now, Sony has made some very interesting comments about the next generation console, and obviously Microsoft have been very strong in their marketing message for the Xbox Series X, but Sony have been very quiet on their promotion of the PlayStation 5. In comparison, especially to Microsoft. And in an investor call earlier today, the Sony CFO Hiroki Totoki actually answered a question from an analyst around the lack of promotion for the console. And it basically asked if whether Sony are failing to keep up with the push from Microsoft. And he says, quote, "We consider things strategically, but we are doing our best. As for pass or fail, I would wait for PlayStation 5 sales to make that judgment." Now, I will say that this does line up pretty nicely with what Paul has heard previously. In case you missed it, Paul did do a video a little while ago about why Sony haven't actually shown what the PlayStation 5 looks like. If you have missed it, you can find it linked below as well. So basically what they said is that they didn't want to show a hand-built model. They wanted to show what the actual mass-produced console is going to look like, because it seems that the design is so weird or different, or there's something about it that people might not believe that that's actually what they're going to hold in their hands if it was built by hand. So they want to show it for themselves, basically, and so here is the console. So what this says to me is that Sony is quite content, at least for the moment, to let the console speak for itself. They're not going to be rushed into revealing it. They're going to reveal it when they have planned to reveal it, and they're confident at least that they can make up with it just by showing the console and say, here's the console, here's the specs, here's the price, here's the games, basically. That's what I take from this statement, but of course that is me kind of speculating on what they've said there, but either way, that does line up again with what we heard as to why Sony have not shown the console. This does seem to be pretty in line with their thinking so far. Is that thinking correct? We're going to have to wait and see, unfortunately. Obviously, with this current generation, the Sony PlayStation 4 went on an absolute tear and oversold the Xbox One by, well, it's not even close, let's just put it that way. You know, Microsoft have not revealed the sales for the Xbox One, but analysts do believe that they sold roughly 50 million units, whereas the PS4 has now topped 110 million units sold worldwide. Even if you say that the Xbox One has sold 10 million more than the analysts say, obviously Sony did win this generation in terms of raw sales. So will that happen again? I don't know, to be honest. It's really tough to say. Microsoft definitely seem to have learned from their mistakes from the Xbox One generation. And I think they have taken everything they've learned under their wing and have just gone on an absolute tear. So I think that Sony is definitely going to have more of a fight on their hands this gen than they did last gen. But obviously time will tell whether or not their wait-and-see approach will actually pan out. Anyway, that is me done for this video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, your support is very much appreciated. Do remember to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.